Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I was in room two and was just really impressed with the sort of depth and detail of the discussion that we had. It's amazing that when you get these types of experts together on participation, you can create a whole participatory mechanism in 20 minutes. Um, so,
It was short.
what we will do now, was sorry, Kanin?
Yes, I said that it was too short.
Yeah, too short, of course. Okay, so we only have 10, 15 minutes now for the general discussion. So what I would like is if each room had a rapporteur, it would be great if each room could just note one key challenge that you identified, like one thing that was difficult to address, and one like key feature of your approach that you thought was interesting or useful of what you ended up putting together. So one challenge and one sort of key like feature or approach that you ended up deciding on. Can we start with room one?
Sure. And I'll give you the caveat that I haven't had breakfast yet, so my brain might not be fully firing on the summary. But one challenge that folks raised was that they weren't even sure if institutionalizing an e-portal was the right approach for climate. It was a question about accessibility and will most affected groups use a portal. There was lots of conversations about how we could reach more groups, young people, etc. Everything from creating physical centers where people could come to have their input heard and put into the system. But yeah, there was that point of departure of, is this even the right question that we're asking?
Great. Yeah, so I think that's a great point to interrogate sort of whether the minister's suggestion to have an e-portal is even the right way to do it, or whether it needs to be complemented certainly by other approaches to participation. Group two, room two.
Hi, everyone. This is Natalia from Group 2. With regards to an important feature, we discussed the importance of ensuring that the portal would enable two-way dialogue between citizens and government, because often we talk about how public participation activities can be very extractive, and citizens, feel like they're not there's not continuous communication between government and citizens on how their input is being utilized. So, and that can erode trust. So anyway, that was a challenge we discussed. And then also we discussed in terms of the legal instrument, how it's really context dependent on the country. There's certain instruments which we understand are stronger, like having laws in place, but then there are others that are a little bit more accessible, more broadly accessible, like policies or strategies. Although they might be softer, they might be more accessible for most. And perhaps as you mature in your journey, you would maybe have a law.
Great points. Yeah, I like the attention to the fact that even if laws are sort of the most formal or the most enforceable, they're often going to be the most difficult to actually get in practice and often may not specify sort of the mechanisms of participation at the level of detail that is needed. So other instruments may in many contexts be more appropriate. Group three.
I think I can jump in. Okay, we first discussed about how the platform has to be accessible, user friendly, and then we went to think of it in about as a digital infrastructure with very clear rules on how the participation is going to be addressed. But the program should include some programs focused on territories, connecting with local issues that is going to vary about climate change. That is very generic, but should varies depending on the territory and not with only general. And then we went to capacity building, focusing on some demographics and training involving officials and the very important importance of monitoring and the very strong feedback because the process is very dependent on that. I think that was a very short overview of all the rich discussions we had in our group.
So these are some great points as well. The need not to have, sort of a one approach fits all type of participation, but to think about the specific sort of issues that might be raised in different territories. I think that's an excellent point. Okay, so this is great. I really appreciate your active participation in the exercise. We have just about a little over 5 minutes perhaps for discussion. So really what I'd welcome at this time, we've already heard from some participants about, challenges with respect to institutionalizing participation in their country, gaps or barriers or needs or opportunities. So first of all, I would welcome anyone who wants to share from their country experience sort of the challenges that are being faced with respect to participation. To please feel free to raise your hand. We would love to hear from you about how you're trying to address those challenges or any lack of movement in addressing those challenges. And second, if there's any questions, either that came out of the exercise or regarding the presentations before the break, please feel free to raise those. So opening the floor now for anyone to share experiences with institutionalizing participation from their countries, or any questions related to anything we've discussed so far. Yes, Brendan.
Hi, everyone. This is more on the latter question. Just, I mean, reflecting on kind of what I was hearing across this last exercise, and apologies that I missed a bit of it and joined late, but I wonder how to also kind of take into account the kind of diversity of local kind of climate and sustainability initiatives. So it's not kind of a reinventing the wheel process. So kind of scanning the terrain for existing participatory spaces or kind of existing experiments or local level kind of strategies or inputs to make sure that those are kind of incorporated when doing kind of more of a top-down kind of overall strategy kind of exercise. And then perhaps just kind of related to that or kind of the other side of the coin is because something like climate implies trade-offs and certain resources going to certain groups and not others, or certain costs and burdens being borne. I think it's really important in this kind of a participatory exercise to really say who's going to make what's the ultimate decision making body and process, and how does it represent and take into account different stakeholder groups that are affected by this issue. So it's great to have the kind of broad-based consultation, but then, does that go into black box and kind of something comes out the other end, or is the participation taken all the way into that final decision making process, making sure that's visible and kind of agreed upon?
So I love that point, Brendan. So maybe I can just respond to that second point that you raised about the black box. Haidem, if you're still on the line and if you have any thoughts about how to institutionalize participation at a not at the national level, but in a way that sort of reflects needs at the regional or municipal level, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know IODP has experience with this. But yeah, so I think that point about there is a tendency or a desire to try to develop participatory mechanisms in a way that avoids imposing obligations on the decision maker. So, to create a e-portal where you can receive information from the public, but not necessarily, as Natalia was saying, share information with the public. Developing a strategy which, sets out sort of broad contours of aspirations, but doesn't actually establish concrete obligations on the part of the authorities or specific plans for what will take place. So I think that this is a challenge which we all need to wrestle with, that the heart of participation is accountability. So it is, first of all, ensuring that in the decision-making process, information is being shared with the public, reasoned decision-making is being shared with the public, the way that inputs are being received and considered is being shared with the public, but then also trying to go beyond, the development of strategies or broad commitments to more binding and effective policy actions, I think is really the goal. So when it comes to developing a national climate strategy, I think, the idea would be to try to move beyond that to develop, specific benchmarks, specific plans, specific goals, and specific legislative vehicles that will allow effective responses to climate change based on whatever the strategy may identify. But I think that's always a challenge, making that transition from sort of general aspiration and receiving information from the public to more accountability and more real commitments is something that is a battle to consistently be waged. Khadim would welcome any of your thoughts, including how to sort of particularize participation for the local level.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. As for mainstreaming and institutionalizing participation at local level, I would say that maybe one lesson that I would have, or one that I would, one thought that I would have about this is to make laws binding for local authorities. But as far as it's not the case, during leadership transition, for example, if there is a new mayor, the problem that you will have is that you will start everything from scratch, meaning the outreach, the training, and everything. You will have to do it again. And to better ensure that continuity of the processes, you have to make the laws binding first. And also in the training, not only training the political team of the municipalities, but also training other positions, meaning all the agents that are not politically appointed, meaning the agents that are recruited as workers of the municipality. And in those cases, when there is a leadership transition, those people will always will still stay at the municipality. I think that maybe those are the two thoughts that I have that can help ensuring continuity of participation at local level. Thank you.
These are great points. Thank you, Hadim. Particularly, the way that investing in capacity of non-elected officials can ensure not only effective administration of participatory approaches, but also that commitment to them persists through changes in the political leadership. So I think that we're actually at time now. I believe Melissa has some announcements for you, or perhaps Tim does. I wanted to thank you all again for your participation and for all the work that you're doing through this MPA program and more generally to really empower, public participation. So many thanks to you. I'm looking forward to seeing what you develop in the course of this accelerator and then the outstanding work that follows.
Mine was a contribution to what you're saying. But I don't know if I still need to make it now that you've thanked everyone and thanked all of us.
Please go
Or do
ahead,
we need
Tim.
to
I'm sorry,
share
I
this?
didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were sharing the ending announcements. So
Yeah, no, that's Mel's thing to do. I think mine is something for us to reflect on, and probably I don't know, we may have to get a chance to address this in the course of the next few days. Is why participation? I think if you can try and answer that question in the process of thinking about mainstreaming. If you can try at the very beginning to kind of think about why participation, why is it good thing for government, and why is it good thing for citizens? That might give us something to think about, or something that can outlive political transitions or goodwills and stuff. Like if everybody understood why it was important to do it, what is in it for government, what is in it for citizens, then we might actually have something that can address these challenges of volatility of goodwill and support that comes and goes given based on political transitions and so forth. So I think this is a challenge for us, kind of like take home from me today, to kind of think about if you can answer that question of why, and in a sense from a point of what is in it for me as a government official, or elected official or something like that, or a citizen. I think that can give us some headway.
Great. That's a great way to conclude. Okay. Thank you so much, Tim, and passing the floor to Melissa.
Thanks. Yeah, this has been such a wonderful session, more than we expected, Nikhil. It was so beyond great. And I'm sure the participants agree. So for the next hour, we still have a few minutes. We have another coffee session in the other room. It's all in your calendars. Feel free to go there, but first take a few minutes to just relax if you want to join that other session. And we'll see you tomorrow for the next 2 sessions with your mentors on building value propositions and stakeholder mapping tomorrow. So tomorrow we have more hands-on session like what we just did in the last couple of minutes of the session. We'll have more of that tomorrow. So come prepared to engage and talk to each other and learn more about each other's projects and where you're going with your journey. So thank you, everyone. Hopefully I'll see some of you in the coffee talks or see you tomorrow as well. Yeah, and this recording will also be added onto the LMS and the session recordings. And I'll also share the document where you're all taking notes. So everything that comes out, we will share so that you have access to it after. Sure. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day. I'll see you in the coffee shop. Yeah. Thank you, Nikhil. And
Bye,
Kadim.
everyone. Thanks, Nikhil and Kadim, and everyone for
you.
listening. Good.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, and everybody, Melissa team, everybody.
Let's go have coffee.